Who is the strongest at the end of the original run of Dragon Ball GT? Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta or post 100-year time skip Goku? This has always been an interesting debate to me because even though both characters only get very limited screen time during Dragon Ball GT, they both give off this sort of overpowered gag character vibe, and even as a professional, or at least someone who tries to be semi-professional, that's the sort of vibe that I get whenever I see either of them. So for a quick warm-up video before I do the behemoth that is GT Goku versus Super Goku, I want to analyze who is truly the strongest character at the end of Dragon Ball GT.
We interrupt this program to bring you...
Have you ever wanted to give me money? Oh, sorry, 1 second. Really now? Huh? What's that? Okay, fine, whatever, jeez. Okay, so apparently my lawyer says I lack tact, whatever that is. Anyway, in all seriousness though, I get a ton of comments about matchups that you guys want to see, and I never get around to them because they all get lost in each other. There's so many of them. And I figured since I don't really want to open up a Patreon or take any sponsorships for this channel if I ever get that big, emphasis on if. A quick, easy, and affordable way to support me, if you donate even as low as $1 to me on Cash App at unremarkableyt69, I will cover whatever requested matchup you give me. It's a first come, first serve sort of thing, so no matter how big your donation is, that's not going to bump you up in line. That'd just be unfair. Though larger donations will likely be made into longer form content as opposed to 60-second power scaling. And only donate if you can absolutely afford it. Times are tough on everyone, man. It is basically Detroit out there. But any contributions are highly appreciated, and I thank each and every one of you, even if you don't donate, for watching this video. Again, that's unremarkableyt69 on Cash App. Link will be in the description. No, this video wasn't sponsored by them. It's just easy to scam people on Instagram with that. And back to the show. I won't be comparing feats at all because, let's face it, post-time skip Goku is a featless character. So using Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta's feats to give him the win here isn't really fair. But if you prefer cold, hard feats to statements or speculation, then I can understand why you'd want Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta to be the strongest because it makes the most sense from that point of view. The main arguments for Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta come from the GT Perfect files. Specifically this quote here, which reads, "A warrior with no equal, born from the fusion of Goku and Vegeta." Another very similar quote reads, "The fusion form of Super 4 Goku and Super 4 Vegeta, the most powerful warrior in the entire universe and across all dimensions. The invincible Super 4 fusion has only one weakness. Due to its enormous power, the fusion time limit of 30 minutes is shortened to 10. These aren't the only two statements. There are a lot more, but I won't read them all for the sake of time, and because statements like this are unreliable. For example, Daizenshuu crowns Gohan the mightiest warrior after unlocking his ultimate form, which would put him above Super Saiyan 3 Goku. And he is above Super Saiyan 3 Goku, but only during that specific part of the story. This is a lot more blatant in the anime when Goku just fights a clone of Ultimate Gohan that is stated to be just as strong as the original Gohan, both in the show and Daizenshuu. But even in the manga, Goku and Vegeta comment that Buu's ki is rising when he reverts from Super Buu to Kid Buu. And even more blatantly, Kid Buu is able to push back a spirit bomb that has energy from Gohan in it. And Super Saiyan 3 Goku was around Kid Buu's level, relatively speaking. Not to mention, Goku has multiple of these statements in the book as well, so it's not even a Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta exclusive thing. Some of these can be argued as being in reference to Goku at the beginning of Dragon Ball GT, but others are very clearly referring to him post 100-year time skip. So if you can't go off of feats because post time skip Goku is a featless character, and you can't go off of statements because they both have statements leaning in their favor, then what can you really go off of? Well, this is where we have to delve into speculation territory. Is it realistic for Goku to have surpassed a fusion multiplier with 100 years of training? This boils down to two things. One, how strong you think the fusion equation is, and two, how strong you think Goku can get in any amount of time. The fusion multiplier is a heavily contested topic because there are various statements across various guides, but all of them tend to conflict with one another. In the Dragon Ball GT Perfect files, it says that Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is dozens of times stronger than the average Super Saiyan 4. Some translations change dozens of to tens of, but it really doesn't matter because the general definition of both phrases is just a lot of something, so take that how you will. A lot of people like to simplify this number down to just 100 times, which is what we'll be doing for for this video, meaning using the GT method, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is 100 times stronger than Super Saiyan 4 Goku. I say this because Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta is equal to Super Saiyan 4 Goku in terms of strength, as confirmed in the GT Perfect files, so they're interchangeable for the fusion equation. The second method actually stems from Dragon Ball Super, but I wanted to cover all of my bases, so we'll take that into consideration for this video as well. During the anime version of the Tournament of Power, Vados actually comments, her power is not simply the sum of her separate parts, but is multiplied dozens of times over. This is actually consistent with what Gogeta says in the Broly movie, where he says their two strengths are not just added together, they're significantly greater. That, along with promotional material for the Broly movie saying that Gogeta and Vegito are equal trump cards, for this method we'll be assuming that the Potara and the Fusion Dance are equal multipliers. I know there's a lot of statements in guides and in the Buu Saga that Potara is greater, but for the sake of argument we'll be saying they're equal. It also uses very similar language to what's said in the GT Perfect file, so we'll be using that 100 times multiplier again for this equation, only it'll be slightly modified. Using this method, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta would be base Goku plus base Vegeta times 100, and then the Super Saiyan 4 multiplier. In order to accurately calculate how strong Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta would be with this method, you would need to track how strong Goku and Vegeta are during the entirety of Dragon Ball, so I won't be doing that for this video. But in the most basic of numbers, Goku would have to get 200 times stronger over the course of 100 years in order to match this method of calculating Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. The final method is a little dubious and a little inconsistent, but it's the most powerful fusion equation, and that's the one a lot of people generally use. According to the Super Exciting Guide, the fusion equation is actually A times B, or for Gogeta and Vegito, Goku times Vegeta, meaning the power level of Goku times the power level of Vegeta. Or in the case of Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, essentially Goku squared. For comparison, 10 squared, or 10 times 10, is 100. 100 squared, or 100 times 100, is 10,000. For probably a more accurate example of just how big of a multiplier we're talking about here, if Vegeta was magically in the Saiyan Saga, his power level would be 144 million, or stronger than Frieza in his 100% buff form, meaning Goku would literally have to square himself in order to surpass Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Given 100 years to train, could Goku surpass all three of these methods? I know there are some people out there that don't think GT Goku trained at all during the 100-year time skip, and you're wrong, by the way. As confirmed by Mr. Akira Toriyama himself, Goku always trains. If you think that Akira Toriyama's statements don't carry over to GT for some reason, Masako Naozawa, the voice actor for Goku, I really hope I said that right, during an interview for the GT Perfect files, mentions Goku training at God's place, which is wherever Shenron brought him, I guess. I've also seen some people say that Goku can't transform anymore after the 100-year time skip, which is stupid. The Dragon Ball GT, A Hero's Legacy anime comics at least heavily imply Goku is still capable of going Super Saiyan 4. So yes, Goku has been training for these 100 years, and he is still capable of using all of his transformations and techniques. When it comes to Goku's training gains, they are extremely inconsistent, either because of the methods Goku is using or because of where Goku is training. Our best guess for where GT Goku went actually comes from the Dragon Ball GT Dragon Book, which is a guide that was released with the re-release of the Dragon Ball GT anime back in Japan. In it, after Goku has met with Goku Jr., it says that Goku will continue to watch Goku Jr. from the afterlife. In Dragon Ball, the afterlife is Otherworld, meaning, according to the Dragon Ball GT Dragon Book anyway, Goku just went to Otherworld. However, this might be contested, as some people will claim that Goku didn't go to Otherworld for whatever reason. So I'll also take into account the possibility of Goku training somewhere normal like Earth for a flat sort of growth rate. For the first method, or the flat growth rate method, we need examples of Goku training by himself in a normal area like Earth, and then we can deduce just how strong he got during that amount of time. The end of Dragon Ball Z takes place 5 years before the start of Dragon Ball GT and 10 years after the Buu Saga. During this time, Goku interacts with almost no one. Even one of his best friends, Bulma, hasn't seen him in 5 years, heavily implying he hasn't trained with anyone either. So how strong did Goku get in those 10 years between the Buu Saga and the end of Dragon Ball Z? Well, during the end of Dragon Ball Z, Goku fights Oob, who just by his power alone, Goku is able to deduce is the reincarnation of Majin Buu. While some people might be skeptical, Goku also says that someone else other than him or Majin Buu will win the tournament in reference to Oob. Considering Kid Buu was putting Buu on a stretcher during their fight, and Oob is stronger than that, it's really not hard to imagine him being equal to Kid Buu. It's actually not as simple as them just being as strong as Kid Buu though, because because Goku actually says Oob is improving throughout their fight, after he says he's the reincarnation of Majin Buu. By the end of the fight, Goku even resorts to a Kamehameha against Oob before stopping, realizing that Oob isn't actually able to fly. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that in those 10 years between the Buu saga and the end of Dragon Ball Z, Goku got over 400 times stronger. Over 400 times across 10 years, do that 10 times, and we'll get our rough estimate for where GT Goku should be post-time skip. The issue here is that the number gets so massive that it actually stops reading as a written out number and goes into scientific algorithmic. I think that's what you call it, I don't know. The final number comes out to be, and I actually had to write this out, I'm reading it right now, 10 sextillion, 485 quintillion, 760 quadrillion times stronger in those 100 years. He absolutely decimates the first two methods of fusion multiplier, but I'll let you decide if he is able to overcome the third one, because honestly, having to calculate GT Goku's power level would be impossible for a video like this. But we can actually go further with End of Z Goku. According to both El Manga Legendario and Akira Toriyama, End of Z Goku is the strongest character in the series during the original run of Dragon Ball. This puts him above the obvious candidates like Gohan, a potential Gotenks even, Vegeta for sure, but this would also include Arale, who is a Dragon Ball character. She featured prominently during the Red Ribbon Army saga, and she has multiple cameo appearances in both Super and the Dragon Ball GT anime comics. Editing unremarkable here. That is not the GT anime comics. That is actually the Brief Return of Dr. Slump, which is a manga written by Akira Toriyama. For a little context, Arale is a hyperversal gag character that can do things like bully the author continuously, or run so fast she actually travels through time. And base End of Z Goku is actually stronger than her. And GT Goku post time skip would have gotten this 10 times over. Using this method, even highballing Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, Goku definitely would have surpassed him, at least in his Super Saiyan 4 form. But you could potentially even make the argument that he surpassed him in his base form, with increases like this. Shockingly, the Afterlife method is actually a far more conservative way to scale post time skip Goku. In between the Cell Saga and the Buu Saga, Goku trained in the other world for 7 years straight, but how strong did Goku get during this amount of time? This is going to require a bit of a Buu Saga scaling chain, but just stay with me for a second, okay? In the Daizenshu guidebook, Goten is stated to be on par with Gohan in terms of power, which is also backed up by their sparring match early on in the Buu Saga. Later in the Buu Saga, Gohan fights Dabura, who is stated to be about as strong as Cell by Goku. I've always been of the opinion that Dabura is as strong as Super Perfect Cell, because Dabura really isn't a character so much as he is a measuring stick. Gohan versus Dabura is there to showcase how rusty Gohan has gotten, and Dabura versus Majin Buu is there to showcase how strong the current villain is compared to the previous arc's villain. And even if you want to say that Goku's statement is specifically referring to Perfect Cell and not Super Perfect Cell, Goku later says that Dabura was stronger than he initially thought, which would still likely put him around Super Perfect Cell level. Gohan and Dabura have a fairly even match. Some guides actually say Dabura was weaker, but is able to close the gap with his magical abilities, but that won't affect too much of the scaling. Goku in the Cell games was actually weaker than Perfect Cell. This is a line of scaling that's reiterated several times throughout the story, meaning that Goten is likely around the level that Goku was during the Cell games. This is important because Goten makes up the fusion that is Gotenks, and we can use Gotenks as a measuring stick to measure how strong Goku is. Despite being a fusion, it isn't until Goten and Trunks train in the hyperbolic time chamber that he actually surpasses Goku and Vegeta. This is something that's confirmed in Daizenshu, meaning even Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta and Super Saiyan 2 Goku during the Majin Vegeta fight are stronger than a Super Saiyan Gotenks. And then Goku has Super Saiyan 3 on top of that, which is a 4 times multiplier of Super Saiyan 2, meaning that Goku more than likely got a fusion level increase while training in Otherworld for 7 years. Maybe we've just all been lowballing the Buu Saga for a very long time now. Essentially, if Goku can get a fusion level increase across 7 years training in Otherworld, then more than likely he can surpass Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta multiple times over across 100 years. No matter which method you go with, the End of Z Goku method or the Otherworld method, Goku surpasses Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta more than likely anyway. The only way you could justify Goku not surpassing Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is if you said he didn't train, which is extremely out of character for him. I don't know how to end this video, so... We already